Okay. Can you guys still see me?
Yes, you have a little screen on the side. Now you change the screen to white to full.
Okay.
And now we have your I don't know if it's a Word document or if it's a whiteboard.
Yeah, it's a whiteboard. Yeah.
Okay, we have that, and we have a little square with your face.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, I think let's get started. I'll also put the timer in just in case to record and see how much time we take for each of the things. So welcome everybody for this session. Today, what we are going to do is, between friends and friends of friends, we are going to try and discuss the topic of don't conflict with stress. We have two coaches here, and we will introduce ourselves. Myself, Jemin, Tanna. I am a certified mindfulness practitioner and a life coach. I'm also pursuing my master's in general psychology, and I like to counsel and help people, like I have helped myself, around topics of stress, anxiety, depressions, and personal definition of well-being and how to achieve that. We are going to talk about roughly 4 points today, essentially 3 points, and then the fourth. We are going to talk about some of the short backgrounds in historical work done by psychologists in this topic. We will talk about a small demo using cognitive behavioral therapy, at least how the CBT starts into the topic of inquiry into negative thoughts. We will talk about mindfulness practice and how it helps in CBT and how it is a little different from CBT. And then we will open up our discussions. There's an echo because there's another laptop besides me. I think this should be good now.
Okay, so let me mute my.
Yeah, all good, all good. So Alessandra, if you would like to introduce yourself, and then we get started into the topic.
Okay, good morning, or here, good night. I'm Alessandra. I'm an English teacher, and I'm also a psychologist. I am doing a master's in cognitive behavioral therapy, and I've specialized in eating disorders, and I've also received some training as a life coach.
Perfect. So Ayappan, Ekta, Rashmi, if you can quickly tell your name, which city are you from in the world, and a small introduction about yourself. Also, Pilar, can you quickly go one by one?
Okay, let me go. So
yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my name is Ayappan.
Your
go
microphone
ahead.
is on.
Yeah, Ayappan, go ahead.
Yeah, Ayappan here. I work for SAP Japan here in Tokyo. I met Jemin in the professional thing last year. So I've been in very close touch with him, and he's been a good friend of mine. I've been in Tokyo, and as you know, like it's almost I've came out of India 20 years now. Since 20 years, I live in Japan. So I have a lot of personal interest towards various things, but at the same time, this work is also something which we need to go through parallelly. So we can't do both, or how we have to do both with a very delightful way. That is something which I would like to understand in my life. So that's what I'm probably going through now. Thanks, Jemin, for the introduction. Yep.
Thanks, Ayappan. Rashmi, want to go next?
Yeah, so Rashmi here. I am also working for SAP, and I'm in Bangalore since almost now, I don't know, 15, 17.
Pilar, would you want to go next? I think Rashmi has some network issues.
Okay, as Rashmi catches up, I'm Pilar, I'm from Mexico City. I am a high school teacher. And since I work with teenagers who are in a very fragile age, I'm constantly studying things that have to do with psychology so I can provide them a better chance to listen to them and help them through. And this is my son, Bastian.
Hello.
Hi, Bastian. Hola, nice to meet you.
And he's here with me. He was
Perfect.
in a chat with friends a little time ago. So I'm an
Yeah.
enthusiast. I love learning, and I want to be useful for the next generations. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pilar. Ekta, would you want to go next?
Okay, yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm Ekta Gupta, and I've been living in Bangalore for past 14, 15 years. And so what made me or I was basically interested in the mindful insights. So I wanted to know more about that. So that's what I'm looking for, basically.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ekta. All right. So I think let's get started into the topic. It's going to we are going to try and do it in 20, 30 minutes, but it might spill over. So let's see how it goes, right? Depending on how the discussions shape up. So let's start with the first topic of some psychological insights. So there was this character, a guy called, he was a neurologist, psychologist, a person called Freud, Sigmund. And it's very interesting because in the last 2 weeks that I started reading upon him, we also have Freud as a Netflix series. So all of you are packed at home, and if this interests you further, you can look at Freud Netflix series as well. He was a controversial guy in terms of talking about mind as an aspect in terms of subconscious, preconscious, and conscious against his generation of neurologists who were very strictly talking about biological aspects of brain and that affecting a person. So what Freud Sigmund was trying to tell us is the following, right? So if this is, forgive my drawing, but if you look at this as an iceberg submerged below in water, most of it is subconscious, which means we don't even know what's happening there, but there is a lot. There is preconscious where we can try and inquire a little bit. So that is the preconscious part. And then there is consciousness where we think we know, we can read our mind, etc. What he breaks this up is into two areas. The first area he calls as id, which he tells is predominantly in subconscious, which means you can't even know what's happening there. And that has two major parts to it. One is called life instincts or Eros, and the other is called death instincts or Thanatos. Life instincts is all about your safety, you wanting to collaborate, you wanting your own group, you wanting your own friends, your family, you wanting pleasure, sex, everything around living life is life instincts or comes under the concept of Eros. And this is subconsciously present in everyone. But apart from life instincts or Eros, we also have death instincts or Thanatos. And what death instincts or Thanatos talks about is everything which is fearful. So anger, anxiety, stress, which is the topic of today. Everything which is dark, which is stopping us, which is kind of killing the subconsciousness from doing things, putting us into that dark space is the death instincts or Thanatos. And again, this, according to him, in bits and parts, exists in everybody, and it's at subconscious level. And this keeps conflicting with each other. We really want to have thrill and passion and do maybe bungee jumping, but Thanatos would say, no, you might die. So and there is a conflict there already at the subconscious level. So that's the id part of the psychology. The second part above id, which is from the preconscious level until conscious level, is something that we call as ego. Ego is more of maturity once we gain. So let me give you an example what happens between id and ego. As a child, when we look at a sweet, the stimulus of looking at a sweet and wanting to eat it is something that we want to do without any time gap, which means I look at a sweet. If the child looks at the sweet, he wants to eat it. Ego at a maturity level, we might think, oh, I look at the sweet, but maybe it's not mine, right? We start thinking about, oh, this is not good for diabetes that I have, or it's not good for the sugar level, or it's not good for the health that I have. And now you have a delayed time slot coming in between because of your matured ego understanding. But if you look at it very carefully, even ego with a time lapse is still looking at a gratification kind of an approach against the immediate impulse of pleasure that the id looks at. So, but ego and id both look at pleasure, right? They both want pleasure. Id wants it immediately. Ego, with its all maturity and thoughts, wants it maybe in a different genre of time-based gratification in this example, right? And then there is superego, morality, maybe from the society, maybe from within our parents, from our upbringing, etc. And this might conflict with the entire concept of pleasure, right? So it might say, no, you cannot have any kind of pleasure here. Morally, this is wrong, right? And then there is a conflict between superego and ego and id put together. What we are talking about, from why I brought up this Freud Sigmund's concept, is that there is already a lot of conflict building up within our premise of mind, right from subconscious until the conscious level. And these are the gamuts that it plays around, right? So next time when you're thinking about something, maybe step back and try and observe your thoughts and see where all the id is coming into picture, maybe where is the ego coming into picture, where is superego coming into picture, and try and see the pattern of the conflict within your head on your own, right? So with that, I think I complete the first part. I just wanted to give you some impulse on psychological work. So there are a lot of other psychology work around this. This is one of the things that I liked, and it relates to the concept of conflicts within the mind, so I shared with you. So before we move on, maybe quickly, any questions from anybody, any thoughts, any first level feedback on what you think from what you saw? Does it make sense? How does it play a role in your own mind that now you quickly retrospect? Anyone?
Well, I'm a psychologist. I look at that all the time.
Yeah.
The fight between the superego and the id, the conscious mind, the subconscious, the preconscious, and it helps me to try to understand people and myself.
Right. Absolutely. Any thoughts from you, Pilar?
Well, yes. I was thinking about last week's session and all the things that happen in the subconscious.
Yeah.
I was talking for those who weren't here last week that I come from a very, very strict Catholic world where everything is black and white, where you cannot judge, where an idea that doesn't come from your parents or the priest possibly comes from Satan and all of that. And even though I don't practice Catholicism, I haven't practiced in quite a while, all the mindset, the structures of thinking that conflict me still now. I was thinking about what you say and how the subconscious mind is so powerful because I want to change some patterns in my life. I come from a quite a toxic, narcissistic mother. I look just like her. I have her same name, but she was constantly trying to turn me into herself, and she denied me every individualistic thing that I could possibly have. So even though I struggled and I went out of the house and I mean I look at all the things I've done, and actually I'm surprised I'm alive. You know, I survived a lot of horrible things, and but still when I want to do something, I have a lot of trouble. I started therapy last year, and talking with my therapist, we came to the point that I suffer from the imposter syndrome. Because I was told so many times that whatever I did was wrong, that when I want to do something right, I always get in my way, and I always destroy the chances, and my mouth is too big, and I destroy the chances. I don't need enemies.
Like
I have my mother in the subconscious.
Yeah.
So, thinking about that, like, why do I do this? It's not that I do this. It's that the system in my head, in the subconscious, runs so deep that it really takes every single effort not to destroy my plans of becoming better. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pilar, for sharing that. Any comments from Rashmi, Ekta, Ayappan? Any of you want to add on anything to this?
Yeah, hi Jemin. So I had just one question. So is it like superego will tell us not to do that? Or is it negative?
A very, very good question, Ekta. So superego, let's understand the superego part, right? Superego is more, let's take an angle of morality, right? What it is doing is, look at the chocolate, I want to eat it. Now I eat it, done, right? Life instincts, Eros. Ego tells you, maybe chocolate is not mine, let me give it to somebody, ask for it, gratification, right? But what superego might tell generally from a morality angle is more judgmental in terms of what's right, what's wrong. And more often than not, when it is conflict, superego is trying to tell, even if superego is saying this is the right thing to do, that is against your first choice of pleasure, which ego and ID is bringing. And hence the conflict, and hence we feel it is negative, right? I'm not, as of now, what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to conclude whether superego is right or wrong. I'm not even telling whether ego is right or wrong. Maybe id is the right way. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is there is a conflict between all of this because all three are of different genres. Ego and id are going towards pleasure. Superego is more from morality, trying to tell and give judgmental viewpoints on what is right and what is wrong.
Okay.
That's how the construct is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Ayappan, anything from you?
Jemin, I'm just trying to digest myself. So just go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. All right, then let's go ahead and start with the second part of our session, which is a quick demo on how cognitive behavioral therapy works. A cognitive behavioral therapy, by definition, is trying to challenge your negative thought patterns, which is resulting into negative outcomes that you might have physically or emotionally, right? Playing at a mind level or playing at a physical level, like having migraines because of stress. So it challenges the negative patterns of thoughts, and we will have a quick sneak peek into how this works. So either one of you volunteer and tell your recent stressful situation of your life, or we have our coach, Alessandra, she would bring up and play the role of a person, a client who needs help, and then maybe I try to play the part of the coach, and we see how it works so that you can try and apply. This is a start point into CBT, one of the tools, very beginning tools, and then we drill down deeper. But for today's session, we are just going to look at the start point of trying to identify what we call as cognitive bias distortions and then challenging a little bit. So if any one of you want to bring that topic, one of your stress points up, else maybe Alessandra, you and me can go ahead. Yeah, I think Alessandra, let's between you and me, let's start.
Okay.
Sorry again, Alessandra, I'm putting you on spot.
No.
As long as it helps people. Yeah.
Let's do a different thing than last week.
Sure.
And a thing that I think that could help the group.
Sure.
All this, well, I think that we're all being feeling a bit stressed, some more, some less, because of the coronavirus situation.
Mm-hmm.
In my particular case, I think that there's a A lot of anxiety because of the unknown.
Yes.
And also a realistic preoccupation for the health, my health, and the health of my loved ones, especially my parents who are in their 70s and longtime smokers. So they're in a vulnerable group.
Yes. Okay. So maybe let's use that as a start point, right? So what I'm doing on the whiteboard over here is the ABC approach. C is the outcome that we have, right? So C is, as she said, as Alessandra said, this is stress, anxiety is something that is building up, right? The A are what we call as activating events because of which C is happening. So the COVID-19 scare, old parents who are vulnerable, right? So these are my events because of which I have my stress and my anxiety. And I'm sure we all, most of us can at least relate to this because the entire world is going through this. Now, what we want to do is, we generally think in a lot of situations in our life that these events are responsible for the outcome. So COVID-19 situation, having vulnerable parents or kids in that age group makes us stressful, makes us anxious about the future. What CBT tells us that this is not true. The events don't result into stress and anxiety, but there is something in between that does. B are our thought patterns. So let's try and explore that. So Alessandra, maybe from your recent past, can you try to pinpoint a time frame or an episode in which your stress and anxiety were at the maximum because of this COVID-19 and old parent situation? If you can recall that particular instance very clearly and run the group through exactly what was happening there. Was there a conversation? Which situation were you in? And your stress and anxiety going high? Can you try and recollect that for the group?
Well, I think it was about last week. I don't remember the exact day, but it was around, I think Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. That it was getting pretty bad.
Yeah. In that moment, was there a trigger point? Were you watching some news? Were you discussing something with somebody? What was happening around that it shot?
My mother is my constant news reporter.
Yeah.
And I was getting really anxious because up to that point, there had been no response from the government beyond a denial of the situation and a belittling of the situation. And of course, people were still roaming about the city and coming, going. And my thought was like, if we don't do something now, the majority of us are going to get infected and a lot of us will die. And it could be my parents or even myself.
Yeah. True. So for the group, right? If you listen to Alessandra very carefully, there was one thought thread that we have to pick up from all of this, right? So the thought thread was, and maybe I use text box, my handwriting isn't too good with the pen. So if we don't do something, right? This was the thought. This was something that was playing in her head, right, Alessandra? So this was something, if we don't do something, right? Now,
a lot of us will die.
A lot of us will die. That is, again, a lot of us will die. This part may be, okay, that's also a thought, right? That's also a thought. If we don't do something,
it's the continuation of the thought.
Absolutely. And this is
one is the like if and then.
Yes. Yes.
If
Yes.
we don't do something then,
yeah.
the consequence, a lot of us will die.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. How, when are these thought patterns, when else did this thought pattern come to you saying, oh no, it's a lot of us are going to die, there is going to be a catastrophe? Can you give one more example that this thought pattern came into your head? So for example, for me, when I got delivered a milk packet, so they suddenly started delivering milk packets again. It was stopped in India for a few days. They started delivering, and the person came, he gave the milk packet from his hand to my wife's hand, and I'm like, uh-oh, this could be the place where virus is coming in, and now we could get infected, right? One example, right? Can you name such other examples where this thought pattern came into your head?
The Mexican government is denying it, and the health system is totally unprepared for what is coming.
And what is coming?
A lot of people getting infected. Especially that, I believe it was, or was it that, yes, it was the week of the Viva Latino, Pilar. I don't remember if it was last weekend or the weekend before. 2 weeks ago. Okay. And they had this massive event with 40, 50,000 people there with, and yeah, they would take their temperature and then it turned out that at least one of the people that went to the event had it. And it's like, okay, how many people are going to get infected because of that? And the government is doing nothing. The feeling of impotence.
Okay.
It was all these things that the health system unprepared, the government denying it, the massive events, and everything just made me feel like really desperate and really impotent.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do against this?
Right.
What can I do to protect myself and my loved ones?
Yes. What can I do, right? What can I do was again, sure. Now, so thank you for bearing with us, group. We are, so one of the parts of CBT really is to listen to the person and try and identify the thoughts that are playing, because we want to try and identify one of the underlying patterns on what is happening. So now, Pilar, sorry, Alessandra, if I ask you, if you look at these statements, right? Yeah, they took the temperature, but one of them got infected. I don't know how many more people will get infected. If we don't do something, then a lot of us are going to die, right? I have old parents at home. Even though they are taking care, they might get affected. I'm stressed, right? If we are going to combine all of this into a pattern, something which is evolving in terms of what are you trying to do, right? What's happening in your head? Like as I mentioned, if somebody sneezed on the road far away and I'm no, we are all dead, right? What is it called?
Catastrophizing.
Yes.
I mean, seeing my thoughts written black and white.
Yeah.
Catastrophizing.
Right, catastrophizing. So what we are doing here is something that we called is
catastrophizing.
Yes, please forgive my scribble there. What we are doing over there, yeah, so that
you should see my handwriting.
Yeah, so it's friends of friends, called for a reason. It's fine, it's not a formal session. So for everybody to understand, right, and why I and Alessandra got too excited, because we know what happened now. We identified a cognitive a cognitive distortion called catastrophizing, which means in my head, as soon as something happens, I immediately go towards the worst case that can happen out of this, and that builds in my stress and anxiety, right? And now the important part to think about this, first let's understand, right? Catastrophizing in the head is the reason for stress and anxiety, not the COVID-19 situation, not the old parents, because we are all trying to take care, we are all isolated, we don't know what will happen. Yes, but that need not lead up to stress and anxiety to such a level that our health is going to get spoiled because of stress and anxiety and not the virus. So first point is really reading your own head to understand this is the culprit and not this. That's the first stage in CBT, to really understand our own pattern. Second most important point, and I'll ask Alessandra if she can build some examples on it, otherwise we move on in interest of time, is that this is what I like to call as branches, right? Branches event, which means catastrophizing, if that is the distortion in me, not only COVID-19 and old parent current scenario is leading into stress and anxiety, but there are a lot of other issues in my life. So I don't know, there are other issues in my life which are adding stress, anxiety, or other negative side effects through catastrophizing. Right? For example, if when my daughter was very young, around 3 years, 4 years age, and when she used to go into the park and do monkey bars, I said, oh, she's going to fall and break her leg. Now this is similar to the COVID-19 and old parents scenario leading to stress, and me looking at my daughter playing in garden and leading to stress. But the issue between all of this is my distortion of catastrophizing. So, Alessandra, can you think of an example where this catastrophizing bias in your head, away from COVID-19 and old parent scenario, still affecting your brain? Can you think of any such scenario over the top of your head? Because if we have many, then this is a very strong bias.
An example I can think of, because actually I don't tend to be to catastrophize or whatever you say very often, but I can think of a very clear example from many years ago. I'm talking about 1992. Okay. I had a class in college from 8 to 10 at night. So the class ended a little bit early, like around 9:30. So I get in my car. I'm alone I'm going back home. And Pilar, you should remember what it looked like back then, the Ibero. Going from the Ibero down to Constituyentes. I don't know if you remember the area, but you probably do.
Oh, yes, I do. There were construction areas and everything was a mess.
Thank you.
All the road was full of holes. So if anybody wanted to stop you and kill you or rape you, they could.
Oh, yeah.
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That night that I was leaving my class, I was going from the university down to the road to take the road to Constituyentes. And that part of the road, it had no lighting.
Yeah.
It was pitch dark. And during the day, they had been digging to make the puentes to Bosques de las Lomas. And they left the little rocks in the middle of the road. And the only thing they did was put a little sign in the middle of the hole, but that sign was just paint. It did not glow in the dark.
Yeah.
So I could not see it until I almost crashed into the sign.
Yeah.
And the rocks destroyed the bottom part of my car and 2 tires. Fortunately, I was able to land next to the only phone and the only light post there was in about a kilometer. And it worked. So I called my mother. She says, call the insurance company, tell them to send you a tow truck. But while my mother got there to rescue me and the tow truck to take my car away, I was so scared because I started thinking,
Yeah.
I'm here alone, and it's a horrible area, and they can come and rob me or do something to me. I
Yeah.
want my mother to come and get me, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was catastrophizing. Totally.
Catastrophizing. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Instead of sitting calmly and waiting, okay, well, the tow truck will come and my
Yeah.
mother's on her way.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
No, my mind's just started going wild with all these catastrophic thoughts.
Yes. 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 So thank you, Alessandra, for sharing that. And so guys on the call, right? Identifying a thought pattern which is affecting multiple areas of your life, in my opinion, when you really, not somebody like me telling it to Alessandra, but Alessandra realizing it, wow, this is happening in me. This itself is a
like
big
I just
liberation.
did a few minutes ago.
Yes, yes, yes.
With my parents and
yes.
the COVID-19.
Yes. And that's very liberating. And then there are other tools within CBT to challenge it and try and change it. But we don't have time to do that now. But at least trying to identify that and agreeing in our own head that, yes, this is the issue, not COVID-19, right? So for COVID-19 stressful situation, I'll just leave the group with one thought that when there is a storm, right, you can't control the storm. You are not going to control. So what can I do? No, you can't. In your own space, of course, you can keep washing your hands, be safe. But at a bigger pandemic situation, you can't do anything. If there is a hurricane, if there is a storm, you can't do anything. Except for, you can't calm down the storm. You can calm down yourself. That's all you can do, right? So with that, maybe I leave the team with that thought. And we move on to the next point, after which it will take around next 1 minute for the next point, and I open up for discussions and feedback. What I'm going to touch upon is the mindfulness part. So let me see quickly. Okay, I don't have anything on the chart for it. So let me stop sharing. Okay, so CBT identifies and challenges the negative thought process that are happening in your head. It doesn't downplay the issue. It doesn't tell COVID-19 having old parents is not an issue, but it tries to tell you and make you observe and realize that thoughts are the issue in handling it, right? If I'm stressed, if I'm anxious, I might lose my wits to take care of myself in this situation. And then I challenge that negative thoughts and try and work around it to change the thought pattern, the neural bridge in my head, so that I don't catastrophize everything in my head immediately. And that's a practice. What mindfulness does is, mindfulness on top of CBT is to first try to look at the thoughts, observe it non-judgmentally. And this is very interesting. So now I have a thought. I have catastrophizing thought. But if I just look at that thought, because thoughts keep coming, we have this alien thoughts concept. It's not me. Like Pilar said, if this is not taught by somebody else, and if it comes out, Satan is speaking in my head. Now, can I look at that thought mindfully without the lens of judgment? Which means the thought is there. I don't put it as good, bad. I don't tell I don't want it. I don't tell I want to change it. I just look at it fully. And then maybe something changes. But this is something that each of you have to practice and experience it on your own. So this is where mindfulness sits on top of CBT once the bias and the distortion is identified. Because otherwise what happens sometime is, some of my clients have come back and told me, you made me realize that I have a cognitive distortion. And now I'm stressed with the thoughts around my cognitive distortion. I'm stressed that I catastrophize everything, right? And that becomes a challenge. And then I teach them mindfulness, right? That,
well,
okay.
Just like I was studying in anxiety disorders a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
The meta cognition of the anxiety. You worry about being worried.
Worry about being worried, right? So
and it just makes it worse.
It makes it worse, right? And that is where mindfulness plays a good role. What I like to give it as an analogy is that if you are under a waterfall and somebody's trying to tell you, no, just look at the waterfall, and you're saying, yeah, I can't, it's hitting my head. But if you step one step behind the waterfall, a little behind, and now you can see the water falling, that going behind, creating that space in your head mindfulness is a very powerful tool, so that you can disassociate yourself a little bit and look at it from a third person perspective, right? That's what mindfulness tries to do and aids to do better CBT. Okay, so I think with that, I have finished what I wanted to do as part of this exercise. I would like to open up for everyone to give your comments, your feedback, anything that struck you while this discussion was happening, anything that you might want to share, and then maybe we can wind up the call. Anybody? Ayapan, Ekta, Rashmi, Pilar.
Yeah. Hi, Jemin.
Yeah. Hi.
So Ekta here. Okay. So when you were discussing about this, one of these events and this outcome thought patterns. So I don't know if we have time to discuss about my thing. I just wanted to share one of my stressful thought, which is actually causing a little stress now also. So basically, I traveled last Monday. So so the event is that I traveled from so I traveled from a safer place to Bangalore. Okay, but so the thing that keeps running in my mind is so the thought that keeps me, okay, so I might have, though I took all the precautions, but still you never know. So the thought, and what mistake I did was I called the maid the next day. So that is one stressful the thought that keeps running in my mind. Okay, what if she would have got infected because of me? And she has her child. What will happen to her child?
Yeah.
And how many others will be because of my silliness or this stupid act?
Yeah.
So how can I practice mindfulness in this situation? Basically, this is
I understand. You don't want to be the patient 31 scenario of South Korea. I don't know how many of you know it, but there was this patient 31, very interesting read, because of which 60% of Korea has been affected because of that one patient 31. Don't want to put pressure on you, Ekta, with that. So mindfulness, first, I think you are very good in understanding that you are also on the same route as catastrophizing, with a scenario of, how much destruction have I done? How much harm have I brought into this entire game of COVID-19? Mindfulness tells you to look at that thought without judgment, which means without classifying it as a bad or a good thought. Looking at it that this thought exists in me, not conflict with that stress, right? So don't conflict the stress. You are stressed. Now don't start conflicting with the stress. Oh my God, how many times are you replaying? Oh my God, how many people have I affected? Did I do right? Did I do wrong? Because are that thought of any use? Is that going to help or change anything? No.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So in that case, right, what's the point of being judgmental about that thought? From a mindfulness perspective, just observe that thought. You need to reduce your stress and anxiety and catastrophizing thoughts to a level where you are, as I said, behind the waterfall, to try and see how you can act upon it more, right? So first step is try and bring mindfulness to go behind the waterfall. And from there, we take the next steps, right? So after that, if you're still stressed, if it's showing you're not able to sleep properly, you're getting stressed, you're getting burning sensations in your gut, your head is all getting heated up. Those are the C part of it. And we have to keep challenging your B part, the thoughts, more aggressively in terms of what it is. For example, what do you do next with this, right? Do you keep checking with your maid on her symptoms? Do you give her a paid leave? What is the best way you don't spread it further, etc. Right? What is the next best thing you can do out of it? But to do that, you need to reduce your stress and anxiety around it. Not take away the thing that, yeah, it's okay, it's not my fault, I'm going to relax. No, I'm not telling to downplay the issue, but I'm telling let's not bring stress and anxiety, because first, it is not going to help the issue. Second, it's only going to maybe make it worse, right? So
Yes.
maybe from there we can take it ahead.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Ekta. Pilar, any yeah, Alessandra.
What you were just telling, Ekta, would it be like, you know, there's good worrying and there's bad worrying. The bad worrying will keep us.
Alessandra, you were breaking up.
Good worrying will lead us to take some kind of action.
Yeah, so if I were
be more or less,
if I were to classify this, if I were, thank you for that question, Alessandra. So good worrying and bad worrying, right? What we are the premise of this discussion is the effect of thoughts on you. So any kind of worry, however you classify it as good and bad, now we are talking about ego, right? Now, or we are talking about id and ego, where we are saying, oh, this is good, morally good thing, and we are going to do good for the people, versus, oh, this is just good for me, I'm going to forget it. What I'm trying to tell is, good worry or bad worry, if it's going to affect you negatively, it is bad, right? And what mindfulness is telling is, worry is a thought. Don't classify into good or bad. Let's go with a non-judgmental thing. The non-judgmental way of looking at Ekta's situation is, oh, I traveled, I met up with my maid, she has a son, and he might get affected. This is the thought that came in me. That's it. Very pragmatic way, that what happened in my head, what thoughts come up. Not good, not bad. It is what it is. That's the center pillar approach for mindfulness. CBT is, oh, I'm thinking this, I'm sleepless. Now I need to resolve this. It's thoughts which make, because remember that that distortion is not only in this scenario. Yes. And again, this distortion, if it is a cognitive distortion, it's not only isolated to this scenario, it may be affecting a lot of aspects of your life. So catastrophizing is, you can solve this problem with maid issue, or you can solve this problem with COVID-19, it will pass away. But your stress won't reduce, because now this distortion will play a role somewhere else. So the key is to target this distortion and challenge it enough to subdue its negative effect on you. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Pilar, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, my grandmother was a very practical person. She survived the war. My grandfather was in a concentration camp, so she had to do a lot of things. So she was a no excuse person, and she always said, don't preoccupy yourself, occupy yourself.
Yes, beautiful.
And that was her motto. She wouldn't think anything. She would start feeling, and then she would immediately block it and start doing. So her house was, I mean, it seems that the Queen of England was going to her house. Everything was impeccable. But that was her way of coping with the stress, with all the things she didn't want in her head. And she was very clear with that. Once my grandfather was out, she always lived with the idea that they could take him away again. So it's a complicated story, but that is a way of coping, and that's why many of us in some aspects of our life don't feel, because we don't know what to do with the feeling. So we, instead of preoccupying, we go to the other extreme, and again it's another extreme, that you're so busy, you don't have time to process what's going on with you. And that's my comment.
No, absolutely love that statement. Don't preoccupy, occupy. I mean, she was a CBT champion already. Your grandmother. Yeah, absolutely. Ayappan, Rashmi, any comment from you?
And I was thinking that same thought. No, that thought of don't preoccupy yourself, occupy yourself. I thought about it too while I was saying about the worrying that leads us to action, and the worry that paralyzes us.
Yes. Mindfulness, other aspect is living in the now, right? I mean, one of my favorite books is Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle. If you guys get a time to read it, read it. It's a very powerful book, and you can read it from any page, right? You don't need to read it in sequence. It's an amazing book, right? It's an amazing book. Teaches a lot of things, for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Ayappan?
Yeah, Tolle is a good thinker. He has, Tolle is a good thinker.
Yes,
he has many interesting ideas.
Yes.
That some people say it's very hippie, but if you understand what is behind the idea that you can apply, he's very useful.
Yes, yes. It's yeah. I mean, the good part about his is he gives you from a CBT, something that I love, right? He gives pointers for experiencing it yourself. You don't have to blindly believe what he says, right? Can you try to do what he's asking to do and see if it changes something in your head? I mean, that's the main point. Okay. All right. Last call for anybody who want to share any last comments. Calling once, calling twice, calling thrice. No? Then thank you everybody for your time. It took a little longer.
Thank you, Jemin.
And I have shared a feedback link in the chat, requesting all of you to please try and fill it up. It'll help us. And once this video, I might put up this video on YouTube. If I put this YouTube video, I'm going to share it with you. And if you think it helps other people, go ahead and share that with other people as well. All right?
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone, then.
Thank you.
Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.